I'm George Galloway.
I'm Steve Topple.
Together we're Topple Galloway in this raging storm. Storms, I should say, that are unbelievable. I mean, outside, but not as bad as it is inside.
Yeah.
Inside the Labour Party, inside the Parliament, inside the whole Brexit affair. What's your take, Steve?
Oh, where to begin? For me, I'm not sure what's going to happen today. I have a sort of hunch what's going to happen today with regards to Brexit. Obviously, the situation as we're going live is that Geoffrey Cox, Attorney General, has effectively shot down Theresa May's notion that she's come back with some...
The Cox crowed.
The Cox crowed, yes. And the Cox is apparently going to be up in Parliament at 12:30. For a statement, but effectively he said that this changes nothing legally with regards to the situation with the backstop. So I mean,
did he say it as clearly as that?
He said
that in his kind of fee. Do you say it as unequivocally?
Oh look, I mean, he put bollocks on Twitter. Excuse my French, but I'm quoting what he said.
Cox, bollocks.
He did, yes, he did. But effectively, I mean, if you look at the conclusion of his statement on the agreement, he effectively says that this legally changes nothing because we'd still be left in the position where
this is all on the Irish backstop. Let's come back to Brexit.
Yeah.
Let's talk about breakfast. The breakfast he no longer has. Tom Watson, the slimline new best friend of the mass media he once excoriated and indeed persecuted legally, not least with Max Mosley's substantial donations. The media now love Tom Watson, which shows you how much they hate Jeremy Corbyn if they can fall in love with Tom Watson. He had the first meeting of his party within a party in Parliament last night. Turns out, by the way, that he registered the name and the domain name 3 weeks exactly on the day that the independent group broke away from the Labour Party. So he hasn't actually been cogitating, agonising over whether to do this. He did it on the day. Yeah. In my opinion, clearly coordinated. This is a pincer movement. The avant-garde, the vanguard go first over the top, and then Watson comes along with the other wing of the pincer movement. They crush Corbyn, then they all come back together again. Yeah. That seems to me the most logical, likely turn of events, don't you?
Yeah, I agree, absolutely. This is blatantly coordinated. I mean, Squawkbox, hello Squawkbox, did an excellent expose.
Good Squawkbox, follow it if you're not.
Absolutely, of the leaked agenda from Watson's meeting, and as Squawkbox pointed out, what was telling was firstly Watson put his mobile number on there for all the world to see.
Don't call it, of course, that would be nuisance.
No, don't do that. Of course. Yes, so his mobile number was on there, but interestingly, what's the first, it was asking a list of questions of what's the people attending at the meeting, what are their areas of interest within politics. And the first was foreign policy in a, what did they call it? Foreign policy in something along the lines of precarious world. So foreign policy is top, indicating obviously the continuing sort of neocon agenda is high on up Watson's list.
Yeah. NATO, EU,
exactly.
US special relationship.
Indeed. No mention of austerity.
Basically defines these people.
It does.
Yeah. No mention of austerity. No mention of cuts.
No mention.
But there was mention of defending their own seats, of incumbency they called it, how they can stay in Parliament. So some wag summed up their meeting as being a rally in favour of dropping bombs on foreigners and keeping us in a seat, which was, in a way, the long and the short of it, although I'm not sure how Corbyn can survive the fact that Lord Adonis was the third to arrive, Lord Manderson the first, and Lord Blunkett, with his guide dog, the second. The venal and the blind leading the venal and the blind.
Very well put.
All of them unelected, of course.
I mean, I'm interested because we haven't spoken since last week's show, and I know that you're expressing your concerns about where Labour's going and obviously the future for Corbyn. Where are you at with that in a minute? Because obviously
it's more than concern. I think it's the end game for Corbyn. 14 members of Corbyn's front bench team attended Tom Watson's party within a party. They're all named in the Independent newspaper for those that are asking who they were. 3 of them were Labour whips. It's possible, though not certain, that they were there to keep an eye on things and report back. That's possible. But some prominent frontbenchers, plus all the usual suspects, Yvette Cooper and all the rest, they were all there. And this new formation is explicitly a party within a party. They're going to have their own spokespeople as opposed to Labour's spokespeople. They're going to have their own policy as opposed to Labour's policy. They are setting up the possibility of Watson declaring himself the leader of the parliamentary opposition. If the numbers are right, they can say to the Speaker, well, actually, we are 150, 180 members of Parliament, and Jeremy Corbyn only commands the loyalty of about 10, 15. So it's ridiculous to ask him to question the Prime Minister or ask Diane Abbott to question the Prime Minister. You should be asking me, you should be asking Yvette Cooper. That's the game. If they need to. I think they're trying to break Corbyn as a man. They are so encroached upon his position that last night Lord Faulkner, not sure what first attracted the former Tony Blair flatmate and Iraq war lawyer Lord Faulkner to Mr. Corbyn, but Mr. Corbyn has appointed him the Witchfinder General. So what are the 2 first witches he's going for? Andrew Murray and Seamus Milne. Last night he announces, I'm going to investigate. The head of Labour's communication and strategy, and Andrew Murray, the Chief of Staff of the Unite Union, former head of the Stop the War Coalition. Well, as I put it last night in response, if Corbyn doesn't get a hold of this farce like yesterday, there's going to be nobody left to defend him in that office when they come crashing through the door for him. So I'm sorry, I know it upsets a lot of Corbynistas who still fondly imagine that by being Zen, rope-a-dope, that they're going to punch themselves out. That's not happening. The Watson-Blairite camp is becoming stronger by the day, and the Corbyn camp is becoming weaker by the day. There's only one way this is going to end.
No, I think you're right, and we've been saying this now for a few weeks, both of us.
Can't say we didn't want them.
No, we've said it. I put out a long piece on my website about it, and I mean, thank you. And we've been saying this was going to happen for as long as I've known you. We've been doing. But
if you don't fight them at the beginning, if you start running, they'll keep chasing. You can't expect to run and not be chased. And then, as I put it last week, I thought quite well, eventually you've run so far and so hard that you're out of breath, you're weak. And then they catch you and they devour you. They literally devour you, and I think that's what's happening now.
I think it is, and I mean, my position hasn't changed. That I have exuberant contempt for these people because they're putting their own careers essentially before the good of this country, and this whole notion of somehow progressive centrism, which is going so well with Macron in France, is somehow for the good of the people, is not.
What's progressive about it? What's even centrist about it?
Well,
I mean, if you define yourself as the centre, as opposed to what?
Yeah, exactly. But that's an excellent point, because this whole, so many commentators are saying this, and it frustrates me. They're saying, have the political parties shifted the centre ground in this country? No, political parties haven't shifted the centre ground. What's shifted is people's exasperation with neoliberalism of the past 30 years and the failings of it, which culminated in the financial crash and the Iraq war. The public are sick of normal centrism, and therefore the public have shifted where centrism lies towards Corbyn's
agenda.
Hence
the rise of Corbyn and the success of the 2017 campaign.
Exactly. That's what shifted centrism, and politicians cannot shift centrism back, however much these odious think they can.
Yeah, the media are so complicit in it all. It is actually breathtaking to see it. And it's no longer possible that they're just misguided or making a mistake or they don't know. They are deeply, utterly complicit in an attempt at a coup. Corbyn won the Labour leadership by 2 landslide victories. He lifted Labour's vote in the general election in 2017 in record proportions, nothing seen like it since 1945, and the Labour landslide under Clement Attlee, and they've effectively destroyed him, using the enemy within and the enemy without. And at some stage, perhaps when maybe we should move on to Brexit, when the Brexit numbers fall, when the chips fall, we'll get a better idea of the kind of national government type shape that this might take.
I think so, yeah.
Now, you were saying the cock's crowed. He's up shortly. He says bollocks to Jon Snow's suggestion that he might tailor his advice for political popularity. He said that's bollocks, and I'm sure that he's right. From what you tell me, it seems that he's already indicating that the legally binding agreement, the piece of paper in her hand from which she flew back from Strasbourg, is not worth the paper that it's written on, and therefore Mrs. May goes down to another crushing defeat. And if she does, she's toast, isn't she?
Well, she must be. I mean, but this is what, I mean, from the sort of broad feeling from Twitter, there's now the debate, is she actually going to be defeated on this? Because what some mainstream commentators are saying, and you have to sort of take what they say with some pinch of salt, but sometimes also, I mean...
Stop clock and all that.
Yeah, exactly. Will the fact that she has managed to get some slight movement, even if it doesn't change the legal position with regards to backstop, even though she's managed to get some slight movement from the EU, and also the EU's position that, well, this is your second chance, there won't be a third one, will that be enough to rein in her rebel MPs in the vote? I don't know.
She lost by 230
she
last
did.
time.
And this is the thing.
She needs to turn it around.
She does.
Very, very massive.
Yeah, and will she rein in enough of them? I mean, for me, what's been most interesting watching this unfold for the past sort of 14, 16 hours is the EU's position, specifically Juncker saying that it's either this deal or Brexit may not even happen. That was quite interesting. Brexit may not even... Not that no deal would happen, that Brexit may not happen.
That's been their game, yeah. I mean, they wanted to make leaving the EU so difficult, unpalatable, that people would be forced to think again and reverse it. And secondly, to make it so difficult, so unpalatable, that no other country in the EU would ever dream of trying to be free from them again.
Exactly so. This is a game all along, as Nicola Jeffrey, my girlfriend, Nicola, pointed out last night in a separate but completely related article. I can't remember where it was. There was a piece talking about how anti-EU populist parties are on the rise across Europe. Sure. The EU are effectively looking to make a fool of us to save their own skin, as you allude to.
The anti-Brussels parties are going to win a landslide majority in the European Parliament elections, and that Parliament can no longer then be relied on by the EU to support the deepening of economic and monetary union, which the French and German governments just further pronounced on yesterday, because the majority in the European Parliament don't actually want to deepen economic and monetary union. They want to weaken economic and monetary union, and no wonder, because the people they represent are the biggest losers of that economic and monetary union. The interesting thing though, Steve, if Brexit is delayed stroke scrapped, one of which might be said to be inevitable, and the other highly possible, maybe even probable, then Britain is going to be participating in those European Parliament elections, as we've spoken about before. I'm already dusting down my campaign jacket, looking for an open-top bus, because I'll be a candidate in those elections if they happen, under the slogan, tell them again, we've been betrayed. The political class, its media auxiliaries, and the deep state have betrayed British democracy, and we're going to have to tell them again. And I think that, I mean, who's going to go and vote Labour in the European parliamentary elections? For a start, Labour is looking increasingly like a basket case lying on its back. I better not go further with the allusion. It is literally being destroyed in front of our eyes. The Conservative Party, well, which Conservative Party? The part that tried to honour Brexit, or the part that just betrayed Brexit? The Liberal Democrats? TIG, they're not even a party yet.
For that, yeah, exactly.
So I actually think the scene is set for people like Nigel Farage, for people like me, to do really well in those elections. So, hey, every cloud has a silver lining.
Indeed, yes. But no, and exactly, you've hit the nail on the head, because whatever the scenario is going to be, it's looking more and more likely will be in these mad European elections.
And so you might as well elect people that don't want to be there.
Yeah.
You might as well elect people that want to scrap it and get rid of it all than people who are going there to fill their boots, hats, bags, suitcases, wife's bag, etc., with as much Euro loot as they possibly
Indeed, yes. 30 seconds, and then I want to check the YouTube. Theresa May, how long has she got, do you think? Is this going to be...
She could be out this week. If Parliament rejects her deal, if Parliament rejects no deal, and if Parliament extends Article 50, it seems to me it's no longer tenable, even remotely, for her to remain in office. And the Tories will want to break this logjam with a general election. That means they need a new leader.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at as well. I think I
still see Labour people demanding a general election. Please not.
Not
a general election at the moment. Please not.
Over to the YouTube. Purple Carnations, what a lovely Twitter name.
Isn't it?
YouTube name, rather. Teresa's deal is a choice between stay and stay. Yes, effectively.
Yeah, Brian on Brexit in name only.
People are talking about Ofcom for some reason, I'm not sure.
Are they after us?
I don't know, no, they can't get us on YouTube.
Not yet.
Luke Dishwasher's talking about how media's failed, right, okay, in context of Corbyn, I think. Luke Dishwasher, hello, what a fascinating YouTube handle. Media failed, democracy failed. What's that about Ofcom and BBC? Ofcom are run by Tories, aren't they? Because Ofcom are currently, they're going to do an investigation, aren't they, into the BBC? I don't know if you've seen that or not.
Yeah.
Well, of course, it's going to be, oh yes, everything's lovely. Yes, they're currently investigating, blah, 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 blah.
Gosh, there's a lot of people writing.
There is.
So people are watching this on YouTube and on Twitter, right?
Twitter, yes.
And on Facebook?
There are loads of comments on the Periscope. Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership. That's dead in the water. It's not happening anymore. The smokescreen of Brexit. May is made of Teflon.
No.
Apparently. I'd say she's made.
Looking pretty rusty at
something else
for me.
Exactly. Another economic crash is imminent. Well, yes, that's a completely different subject.
I think it's quite possible. Of course,
I think so.
Italy's in recession. Germany is arguably in recession. French growth is at 1%. The United States bubble is looking extremely fragile. Actually, Britain, for all its problems and faults, is actually doing better than France, Germany, and the vast majority of the Eurozone countries. But capitalism is a distinctly shaky beast at the moment.
It is, and that kind of leads us on to our next topic, really, shaky beasts of capitalism, which is, of course, Venezuela.
Yeah.
As we're live, I've checked the latest news on Venezuela, and obviously it is...
Still standing.
We are, yes, haven't been taken off just yet. It's the latest situation in Venezuela is, of course, the power outage has been going on for 4 days. The narrative and the commentary from Trump's administration in the US is becoming increasingly vitriolic. You had...
Unhinged, actually, yeah.
Well,
crazed.
Yeah, that's actually nearer the mark, to be honest, yeah. You had Mr. Pompeo come out and saying that they're taking all US staff out of Venezuela now because of the deteriorating situation, but also because it's restricting US policy. Restricting US policy? Now, for me, that is the most damning thing I've seen on Venezuela in the past 24 hours, because that to me indicates that if it's restricting US policy, we are going to see a ramping up of either, as I discussed with Max Blumenthal the other day, ramping up of
That was a good
economics.
interview, very
Thank
good.
you.
Max is a great figure.
I love him. Yeah, I just literally can let him talk, and it's brilliant. A ramping up of economic sanctions, effectively Nixon having his Trump having his Nixon make the economy scream moment, or as you shared, a commentator on RT pointed out, is this possible military intervention. I'm swerving on the former, that they will increase economic sanctions so much, because Rubio said in a Senate meeting last week that we need to be starving the people of Venezuela, and the Democratic hawk points out that if we starve them, they won't get out on the streets against Maduro. But the narrative is building and building and building and building and building, becoming more and more aggressive, as you say, more and more unhinged. And yet, back to Corbyn and the media, our media are trotting out the usual propaganda.
Yeah, I mean, they've manufactured consent
Yes.
for an attack on Venezuela, one which is already underway on the economic and political fronts, and may well, even by the time we're finished talking, have moved on to the military stage. Not with a ground invasion, not yet at least, but a strategic bombing of Venezuela is a distinct possibility. On barracks, military barracks, on officers' clubs and presidential sites and so on. We've reached that stage. You remember how they manufactured consent for the attack on Iraq? Well, Maduro is the new Saddam. Saddam, in turn, was the new Nasser, and Nasser was, in turn, the new Hitler, and so on it goes. And the Goebbels of the Western mass media.
You can say that here.
You can. I'm ready to say it anywhere, because this Goebbelian idea of telling lies, big lies, often enough, in the sure knowledge that enough people will eventually believe them, is what's going on with Venezuela. We've got a friend there, Ahmed Caballo. Ahmed doing a fantastic job. He's reporting there. Ahmed is taking footage from supermarkets, from beach resorts, from fun fairs and so on. And of course, what's happening in Venezuela is nothing like what we're being told. And we're told that Maduro is a dictator. Well, if he's a dictator, how come he's allowing a guy to run around claiming that he's the president?
He would have been shot.
Exactly. If he's a dictator, why did he allow the National Assembly, so-called, of Venezuela to announce yesterday that it wants a boycott of oil sales to Cuba? If it was a dictatorship, why are all these anti-dictatorship demonstrators on the streets every day, but in fewer numbers than the demonstrations in favour of Maduro?
Indeed.
Now, so crazed, so unhinged is Marco Rubio. He tweeted yesterday about an explosion at the German dam in Venezuela, which had caused further outage of electricity. And then he discovered, or was told, that there is no German dam in Venezuela, but there's a man called Jermaine Dam who wrote the report that he was basing this tweet on. That's the kind of morons, knuckle-dragging, gold-toothed, low-life morons that are making policy in the United States of America. And you want to be led by them? You think they're the leader of the free world?
I mean, there's a brilliant summing up, and it kind of encapsulates my position in all of this, because it is, it's absolutely down the rabbit hole, smashing looking glasses and popping into the wardrobe to go into Narnia. The whole situation is mad, and it's mad for me not least because of the historical context of this. I mean, this is straight out of the Chicago Boys Chili playbook. If you don't know...
John White pointed out, brilliant, John, great tweet today. John Bolton's latest tweet on Venezuela. He said, if Al Capone had a Twitter account
And that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's pure gangsterism dressed up
Yes, it
as the US government.
It is, which essentially it started in Guatemala, obviously, but the main sort of historical note to this would be Chile, where you had Milton Friedman's Chicago School boys working with the military, funded by the CIA, in 1973 to overthrow Hollande. And this playbook has been used ever since.
Well, in 54, with our Benz in Guatemala,
Guatemala,
they did exactly
Yeah.
what they're doing now.
Yeah.
And this Elliot Abrams, he's been at the scene of many a throat cutting.
Yeah.
He was supervising the throat cutters
Yeah.
in Guatemala, in Honduras, in El Salvador, in Nicaragua. He was their boss.
Yeah.
He was giving them the knives to cut the throats of nuns, kill archbishops, murder medical workers, teachers, health workers, literacy campaign workers.
Yeah.
These people are nothing more than Murder Incorporated. And they're all sitting in the White House. And I say again, you want to be led by these people? You want to, Tom Watson and co. with their pro-American agenda? You want to be led by these people? You think these people have anything to do with any decent person in Britain? It's actually utterly repugnant, but it's equally completely bamboozling why so many people have not yet seen through.
No, exactly. It is bamboozling, and
How do people stay in touch with us, Steve?
It's a damning indictment. They stay in touch by. We've got lots of. YouTube
you've got time for another couple.
Yeah, we can go through some of these. It's a damning indictment. The worst indictment for me is our mainstream media, who are repeatedly lying, even though this has been happening for decades, and they still think they can lie and get away with it. YouTube comments.
They kind of can get away with it, Steve. That's the problem.
That is the problem. But yeah, no, exactly, that is the problem, because unfortunately...
Look at the broken Corbyn.
Yeah, and we, on the left, I think there's a bubble that thinks that everyone thinks like us. Unfortunately, most of the population still believe what they read in the papers.
Yeah. Or they haven't a view on it, they haven't even read it, they haven't even focused on it.
Mimi, how many men are in that house? Look at all the hats on the hat rack. No, that's just one man's hats. You should see mine. I'll tweet a photo of mine later. George's pales in comparison, darling.
That's my cabinet's hats. They're all waiting now for me to chair the next meeting of the shadow government. I've just declared myself Prime Minister of Britain, and I'm headed to Brussels right after this in order to bollocks them.
Yeah, Purple Carnations is very good. Purple Carnations
That's a lovely name.
Points out Abrams is not very good at coups. Well, kind of, yeah. I mean, if you look at some of them have worked, a lot of them have actually not worked in the end, or they've been half coups really. People disagree with us on Corbyn.
Of course,
they
there's
do.
a lot of true believers.
Rustic Rod, Corbyn is not broken, George. It's not a case of him
Really?
broken. It's a case of he's being broken, and we're getting towards him being broken. I officially recognise.
Have you seen him lately, Rod? Has he been out much? Has he said much? Has he done much? Rod? It's called denial.
And 712 Dow says, I officially recognise George Galloway as PM. There we go. PM-elect of Great Britain.
Give that man a hat.
Indeed. Nicola wanted me to give a little shout-out today. A little shout-out to the lovely little Lord Stockport, little Owen Jones, who's been tweeting. Have you seen this little poll he's tweeted?
No, he's blocked me. I can't see
No,
him.
is he? No, right, okay. Hi, Owen. He's tweeted a little poll saying, who's the worst Prime Minister, David Cameron or Theresa May? And as Nicola quite rightly pointed out, this career commentariat who flip-flops more than I do at a beach over Corbyn is basically sort of saying chicken and egg with worst Prime Minister. My worst Prime Minister was Tony Blair. Chicken and egg with who's the worst Prime Minister, Owen, because we need to really be starting to scramble them.
That's very good.
She is good. She's brilliant at this
Nicola,
kind of thing.
brilliant. Thanks very much for watching. And you can stay in touch with us at George Galloway, at Mr. Topple.
Yes.
You can follow me on Instagram, Snapchat, on Facebook, and on YouTube, of course, where you're probably watching this. Our YouTube channel is really being built now.
It is. We're
and,
getting all the old episodes of Topple Galloway are going to be
Yeah.
on the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And our editor...
digitally remastered, no, but slightly brushed up.
Yes.
A bit.
Yeah, so every old episode is going to be on YouTube. As George says, make sure you follow us on social media, get involved with the conversation. This episode will be up to view again very shortly, but otherwise...
It's been marvellous.
It has been marvellous.
See you next week.